The crimes committed against children is so appalling. The Council's remedy is so utterly inadequate. This intervention package I'm proposing is broad and wide-ranging. It would only be justified in the most exceptional case. Rotherham is, I believe, such a case, a truly rare case where the children of Rotherham have been so badly let down by those elected to serve them.
This is a one-party state. Rotherham was entirely dominated by the Labour Party. It was the Labour Party that appointed all the officials who let these kids down. It was the council that let people down. There seems to have been cover-ups in a number of areas. The council is in denial. If this isn't political, what is? Given the appalling record of the Labour Council there, particularly since it involved the most vulnerable in society, why should anybody vote Labour in your town again?
The left has lost the plot. That's why I say I cannot be part of the left anymore, because the left has lost the plot when it comes to child safeguarding. They absolutely have. And Jeremy Corbyn still needs to be asked about his role in child safeguarding in Islington. He absolutely does. He did nothing about the children that were being abused in Islington. He was made aware of it and he's done nothing.
Louise Casey is not trying to be party political quite clearly in this report, but she does say that Labour has had such a strong hold on the council for years and years that in essence nobody was checking them. And that is a real fundamental failure.
When Jack Straw 4 years ago said that there was a specific problem in places like Rotherham, and these are here words, where Pakistani men target vulnerable young white girls and they view them, quote, his words, as easy meat. He was pilloried for these comments, including by a lot of people in your party.
The former Home Secretary Jack Straw has been criticised for saying some Pakistani men in Britain see white girls as easy meat for sexual abuse.
The former Home Secretary's comments have raised a highly sensitive issue. Is there a racial element to many cases of sexual abuse?
Their youngest victim was 12 years old. Most of those they preyed on were white.
Abuse of young girls, typically by men, has no ethnic boundaries, but this particular kind of gang abuse is particularly, I'm sorry to say, but it's just true, it's particularly prevalent amongst the Pakistani heritage community. It's something wrong inside the culture of some Pakistanis and their groups.
He was pilloried for these comments. He was right, wasn't he?
Well, he was right, and Anne Cryer was right as well when she raised this as an issue.
There was a certain point when I felt like giving the whole thing up and just giving up on it because I was being called a racist. I had to protect the well-being of young white girls who were only 12 and 13, and I had to think how I would be feeling if it was my daughter who had had these terrible things done to her. And that's what I had to do in the cases in Keighley, which were all about young Asian lads. Not all that young, actually, some of them were grown up. But I had to do whatever I could to protect the well-being of the girls in my constituency. To be called a racist, it's absolutely hideous, very, very hurtful, and it isn't a situation that I want to go through again. Just dreadful.
If you look at what has happened in Rotherham, the previous MP for your seat ended up in jail for expenses, misdemeanours. The whole council has had to be wiped out and start again there as well. So I say again, why would anybody vote Labour given this record, at least for a generation?
For me, making it into a political issue then makes it into a ping-pong rather than a national concern that we need to be addressing it as a national issue.
Yes, but people, I think, are also looking for justice and for people to be brought to account for this. And of course, the victims are the most important in this, but I would just like to concentrate for a bit on why they became victims in the first place. What do you say to the former deputy Labour leader of your council, Mr Akhtar, who's refused to apologise for what's happened?
Hello, I'm Councillor Jahangir Akhtar, the deputy leader of Rotherham Borough Council.
And what do you think of the record of Mr Sean Wright, who was head of Rotherham Children's Services and the Labour South Yorkshire Police Commissioner, who effectively had to be forced out of his job and has been reluctant to apologise for his behaviour too?
When you were elected as Police and Crime Commissioner, you did so as the Labour candidate.
For those 5 years, not one external report raised CSE as a significant issue over that.
Mr. Wright, we don't accept any of that. We don't accept any of that. We've heard evidence today on oath from the woman who headed Children's Services that you were given every report. We have heard from Risky Business in evidence to this committee that you knew about this. We do not accept for one moment the evidence that you have just given that you did not know that this was an issue. We accept as a committee that you did know. We accept the evidence that has been given by people who have come here before this committee and gave evidence before the committee last year that you were well aware of what was happening.
You let my sister be naked, you let us be groomed, and you let us and put us in taxis with the groomers. That's repair.
While my granddaughter was charged with drunk disorderly at 12 years old and 4 men were allowed to walk free. Why? You were a disgrace, mate. And if I had a gun in her, I'd shoot you.
We don't accept that you didn't know. We don't accept that not a single councillor raised it with you, because we've had evidence on oath from others that you did know about this.
What do you say to Roger Stone, the former Labour leader of the council, who refused even to cooperate with the investigations? And then I look at Mr Fitzgerald, who was the chief executive of your council, appointed by Labour, accused of ignoring reports. He's now running Liverpool Council on £199,000 a year. Jackie Wilson, in charge of safeguarding children at the height of the abuse scandal. That didn't do too well. She's now being paid £90,000 a year as assistant director in Doncaster for what? Children's Services. In charge of safeguarding children at the height of the abuse scandal. She's now being paid £90,000 a year as assistant director in Doncaster for what? Children's Services. Mark Edgedale, the council leader, your Labour council leader, accused of failing to stop this from happening. He's now principal advisor to the local government authority on what? Children's Services. Aren't people looking at that right to be appalled by what's happened? And the inability to bring anybody to account.
Would you say this was just something peculiar and poisonous about Rotherham and that town? Or is this a wider issue?
Oh, it's a vastly wider issue. I mean, at the same time that we were working there, we had referrals from parents all around the country. Everywhere this would have been going on, and it was completely not acknowledged.
How can you sit there and deny everything you said, everything you've done? How can you do it? You can't even look me in the face. Look at all the hate you've done to us girls. All the hate. Just think we've got to live with that with our families. You've done nothing to support us, nothing to support. I've had to live with this for 12 bloody years. And what have you done? You've still got your job. You should stand down. You should go. You should be out. Get this joint back here.
There were differences of opinion at the time about child sexual exploitation.
But you were in charge of children's services.
That's right.
But what I really can't understand is how you were so ineffective in raising these issues once you became the director of children's services.
There is not only that there are a number of the people in the Labour Council, both the politicians and the officials, not only it was a case that they looked the other way, but actually that they helped to cover up. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I do agree with that.
One of the reasons why it took so long to bring the case to light was that police were nervous about seeming to be, in a sense, focusing on a certain section of community. They were nervous about looking racist.
The Labour Party too, under Jeremy Corbyn, knows they get huge electoral support from the Pakistani community, and I think that was another issue. They did not want to offend the Pakistani community.
Rises on Islam. Getting it in the earpiece, just like the old days. Richard, shut up and move on.
Although the reports don't say this, it would suggest to me a fruitful line of investigation as whether there were cover-ups going on.
And I've reported a number of council staff and also police to their investigation bodies and also to the police themselves, because something has gone very, very wrong. There has definitely been multiple failings, and after a time and you know, things keeping on going wrong, you start to wonder if it's more than a coincidence.
There's no way that they couldn't have realised that something were wrong. There were various authorities what knew what were going off and decided to ignore it. I had a child protection officer, she ignored it. Someone from social services ignored it. There were various meetings about me, which was saying if there was anybody found to be dead, it'd be me.
Have things changed, do you think, in Rotherham?
No. No.
One of the officers said to me, Maggie, calm down, listen. What would these kids ever contribute to society? They should have just been drowned at birth. And that is the truth. You know, I swear to you that every word I say is truthful. It shocks me to this day.
How senior was that person?
Well, I can't identify. I'll go to court once.
Not the name, but can you say this position?
Very senior. Very senior.
Yeah.
Very senior. That wasn't a colleague.